Welcome to another Indie Dev Showcase, highlighting the many indie games we play here on the channel. If you'd like to submit a game for a future video, please reach out. But otherwise, let's begin. We are starting things off with classic sports racing. This is an arcade-style racer slash procedural generation, score chasing style game. So this one doesn't really have much of a story. This is all about you, the open road, and trying not to crash or go off it. And make sure to count how many times that happens to me during this part of the showcase. So the major aspect of this game is that instead of featuring handmade roads, everything is procedurally generated. You'll be able to dictate the difficulty, length, weather, and other aspects. And then it's up to you to go off to the races in order to see if you can come in first. The racing fixes again here are definitely on the arcade side. If you've played games like Outrun and all the other ones that I do not remember at all, you should be very familiar with this one. So this is definitely more on the no frills side. If you're hoping for a huge variety of racing obstacles and things like that, this game doesn't quite go that far. But if you are someone looking for a, almost infinitely replayable arcade racer, then this is definitely one worth checking out. Now for something very different, we turn to Voltage High Society. This is a Metroidvania style game, where it plays more like a mix of Metroidvania with a touch of a Souls-like. You are the remaining human on an island, where everyone else has been turned into strange cybernetic monsters and mutants. In order to earn your freedom, you must explore the place, try and figure out what's going on, and try not to die in the process. The game itself will follow you, or you'll go through the island looking for various upgrades, clues, items, and more, which you can then use to power up your character and gain new abilities. Now, the main thing from playing this, first, is that the footage you are seeing is taken from early access, and may not represent the current version of the game. The other point is that from what we played of this one, it did feel a bit on the difficult side. Like the Souls-like genre in general, this is one of those games that is going to throw you to the wolves, and it's going to be up to you to try and figure out what is going on, how do you gain any form of progress, and again, keeping yourself alive. Now, the kind of retro style graphics, it features a very low kind of field of view as you're seeing here, and it can be a little bit hard on your eyes. At least I was starting to feel that way near the end of our play. But if you are someone looking for a challenging and very different take on first-person combat, I would recommend at least checking this one out. It has been quite a while since we played this one, the footage you were seeing here, so I'm not sure how the game is in its current state, but there is definitely something worth exploring with this game. We now have Blastronaut. This is another game that we play this in early access, and what you see may not represent the current version of it. This is a kind of survival crafter-esque game. Think of something with a similar look to that of a Terraria, but remove the fantasy aspect, and we are exploring alien worlds. You have, as per the normal of the genre, crash landed on an alien planet, and in order to survive, you must use the power of mining, upgrades, and blowing up a lot of stuff in order to succeed. So the game itself follows in line with a lot of these style of games. The world is procedurally generated, with major resource nodes and important elements kind of randomly shuffled throughout the place. You'll need to get basic resources to refine them into better upgrades and better tools to then let you go further down, get better items, more resources, and so on and so forth. Now, from what we played of this one, it does not appear to be doing the kind of, grand story escalation of a Terraria. This one keeps things very straightforward, at least in that respect. You'll need to gather multiple resources, keep your oxygen in supply, and set up machineries and other items in order to gather and refine the necessary materials and resources you need to upgrade and unlock new stuff. If you're not a fan of this style of game, Blastronaut is not going to convert you over to it. And as someone who's, again, is not like a huge survival crafter kind of person, the game didn't quite do it for me, but I still enjoyed from what I was seeing with this one. It's a little bit more of an action or movement based challenge compared to some of the other games of the genre. And I would say if you are a fan of this and you like what you're seeing with the footage, at least give this one a check and see if it will work for you. We now turn to Garlic. This is a 2D platformer where you play as Garlic, a plucky platforming adventurer who has come to a massive tower to try and get the hand of the cyber goddess who dwells at the top of it. Standing in his way are many potential suitors, platforms, obstacles, and a whole lot of memes. The general physics of this is that you have a run, jump, you can also kind of climb or cling to walls, and you have a dash. The dash itself can be used to kind of augment your next moves. You can dash into like a ground or a wall and launch yourself off of it. You can use this to gain more height or more distance, and you will need this as the game goes on. Throughout each one of the game's major worlds, you'll also find a variety of minigame challenges that will kind of lead you towards the game's wacky assortment of different endings. Now with Garlic, this is a challenging game. You have one hit point, and if you take damage, you must wait for it to kind of recharge. A second hit will kill you, and there are a lot of enemies, obstacles, and many different styles of advanced movement and platforming tech that you're going to have to deal with. Lots and lots of wall jumps and kind of single wall jump style challenges, and there is a lot to this game from a platforming point of view. I would not recommend this game if you are someone who is looking for like a beginner or maybe medium challenging platformer. It doesn't quite get into Kaizo level land of difficulty, but you are going to have to do a lot of very tricky platforming, and the distance between checkpoints and the amounts of you must do will increase as you get further in. I still enjoy this one. It is a really finely tuned platformer, and I'm curious to see if we'll see any more of this style from the developer. So if you are looking for a bunch of memes and a bunch of platforming, definitely check this one out. We now have Spellbook Demonslayers. This is the VS-like from the same developer of Malice and Greed, and this has been kind of their project they've been focusing on since 2022. As per the genre, you are going to be stuck in a field of enemies, and you're going to have to fight your way through more and more waves of colors, lights, and sounds, all deafening you as you create just amazing death across the screen. What Spellbook tries to do to stand out from the crowd is that there's a greater emphasis on kind of character and game customization. You are given ways of increasing the difficulty of the game, unlocking new spells, abilities, new characters, and so on. You're also given a more active map compared to some of the other VS likes, as there'll be different events that will show up that you'll need to rush over and try and deal with to unlock special rewards, gain more boosts, or stop a tough enemy from doing something. As time runs out, of course, things will escalate more and more, and they're, just like as per the genre, a whole lot of persistent aspects to add new features, functionality, powers, characters, and again, you should have this all down by now if you've been following the genre. The main thing I think that does hold this game back, at least from when we played this, is that it still feels very much in line with kind of like the VS-like style or Vampire Survivor. And over 2023, we've seen newer takes that have kind of implemented Diablo-style loot systems or even action roguelike design on top. Now, even with that said, what you're seeing right now in terms of footage is taken from the demo that we checked out in 2022, and the game has received a variety of updates and new content since we checked this out, and what you see may not represent the current version of it. So if you like your VS likes to be all about filling the screen with death and many different colored lights, and of course you're not tired of the genre yet, then this should be one you should at least give a check to, and see if you can add to your VS like backlog that I know a lot of us have now. For the last game of our showcase, this is Mech Shuffle. This is another game that is in early access, and I can tell you that what you see definitely doesn't represent the current version of the game. Following our play of this one on stream, the developer released an updated patch that also redid the portrait art for all the mechs and stuff like that. This is a deck building roguelike / mech combat style game. How this works is you'll choose a mech from different starting builds. Each mech will come with different cards, aka different parts, that they will use to fight each other in mech on mech combat. The challenge here is that you must kind of balance not only what cards you'll play each turn, but how that relates to heat. Heat is the blue gauge that you see kind of in the middle between the yellow health and the mech portrait. Different cards will provide different degrees of heat. If you hit 10 points, you will lose a turn. How combat plays out is that different cards will either perform different kinds of attacks or different kinds of defense based on the different icons and the color of those icons that you see. Both you and the opponent will play your cards, and then combat will be kind of played out with all the attacks and guards and all that kind of going back and forth. So the kind of challenge of this one is figuring out how offensive you want to be on a given turn. If your enemy plays a lot of defensive cards and you know that you just can't get through it, it's better to kind of spend cards to pull your mech off rather than trying to brute force your way through their defense. And likewise, the enemy will be trying to read you as well. As you'll play, you'll unlock new mechs, which will give you new cards, new options, and so on. While this game may not, I think, win from an aesthetic standpoint compared to some of the other deck building style games we've played, I do like the card play and the card design of this one. As I said a minute ago, this is not a game where just full-on aggression is going to allow you to win. You need to be keeping track of what the enemy is playing and trying to get around it using your cards. And again, making equal use of defensive and offensive strategies. So if you are someone who likes your deck building style games and looking for another one to check out, I highly recommend taking a look at this one, especially again, since it has been given many updates since we covered this one in 2022. That's going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to do the YouTubing stuff people tell you to do. If you're interested in more of my thoughts on design, check out my books wherever they are sold. Visit our Discord and Patreon, and come back for daily discussions on game design here, and on game wisdom, where some of the art and science of games.